Colin, this is a real historic, important video. We're going to talk 10 years ago today, the Mathew Stewart knock warrant, such a marquee event in American history. Kevin Blanch started the Million Mask March with the Boston Boys, 7 million people. This is fundamental in how it started. Let's go right here. This is important because there's new information. Mark DeCaria, who's a piece of this, has passed away just recently. He had open heart surgery, COVID. He was the youngest 70-year-old. Recently, I'll start from the beginning. D. Smith has passed away. What's happening? Work, huh? I says, what's going on today besides work?
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing a piece on the Mathew Stewart thing. That was 10 years ago today. When Jared got shot, the whole thing. Monument's right here. So, this is important, historic, because the Masonic Temple 1905 plays into Randy Richards, Bernie Allen, D. Smith, who I know them all personally really well. I restored the Masonic Temple. I'm the guy that saved it, mentally and physically. So, everybody knew Jared. Everybody in this town. So, all the young people in this town used to call him the nice cop, the good cop. Because cops here are not nice, and they weren't, especially in that era, not all of them. I mean, good cop, but everybody knew him. He'd go into the schools. All the young people, everybody calls him the nice cop. So, and if you haven't seen Peace Officer, the documentary by Dub Lawrence, you need to watch it. It's an incredible piece. So let's start this here because it all comes right here. So Mark DeCaria was the prosecuting attorney, but he had been named a judge. This falls back to the judge. The no-knock warrant situation here in Utah was out of control. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was going crazy, including judges. Well, not judges. Mark DeCaria sure knew. He was the prosecuting attorney, and so they were being rubber stamped. Lots of cops were talking about it. Right wing, left wing, everybody was all, because they were out of control, and they were like, everybody was talking. This is Ogden. The BAR was invented right there, Browning. This is not going to end well, because everybody in this town's got guns. Everybody. This is one of the gun capitals of the world. Browning. I hung from a rope and restored that. Randy Richards, Bernie Allen, D. Smith, their young junior partner, I just talked to him right there. I restored that. Single-handedly, by myself. I hung from a rope and hand chiseled. Should have seen it. Can't be nightmarish project. 7 days a week. Leslie Hodgson's first. You know, they wanted to tear it down. I had a fit. So anyway, Mark DeCaria, he just passed away. Got to be the youngest 70-year-old in tragically, by the way. Everybody knows him in this town. Everybody. And God, he looked like he was 30. He had open heart surgery. He had heart surgery. So did I. But he got COVID. Sadly, he's passed. D. Smith has passed. Yeah, that D. Smith. So, when it happened, everybody in this town's going psycho. The no-knock warrant's out of control. Right, left, and everybody knows. This is not going to end well. Lots of cops are talking. Everybody's talking. And, you know, everybody knew in this town because it was out of control and it was happening constantly. And they're like, somebody's going to open up. They're going to open up fire on these guys. It's just a matter of time. I'm in the bone marrow transplant that night when it happened. And the TV's on, KSL, and I'm like, oh God, it happened. This is what we've been predicting. Mathew Stewart was an Iraqi war veteran. Now, I talked to Mathew Stewart's mom and dad right here not very long ago. Everybody knows Mathew Stewart's mom and dad. They're pillars of the community. They're a famous family. Everybody, you knew Mathew. Everybody, I never met a person in my life that didn't like Matt Stewart. I never met a person like Jared. Now, if you haven't seen the documentary Peace video, you need to watch it. I know Dub personally, you know, the BYU artist that made it. I went to the screening. There's pictures with Dub and I together. Mark DeCaria was the prosecuting attorney. The prosecuting attorney's office ran in there by Randy Richards, Bernie Allen, and new junior partner D. Smith. They're my attorneys, you know, and so they were. So it happens. D. Smith has been just freshly, brand new, named the new prosecuting attorney because Mark DeCaria has become the new judge. Now, I don't think Mark DeCaria signed this warrant. I don't know which judge, because they keep that secret, but I don't think so. But anyway, his wife had called the cops on him because he had been growing some marijuana in his house, she said. So they walk around the house and see through the window some marijuana going on. Now remember, he worked nights at Walmart. So the knock-knock warrant's issued. They go in there pretty well unmarked, a whole bunch of cops. And Mathew Stewart thought they were invaders. He was asleep. He worked nights. It was during the day. Pulled his gun out like this, and it was hundreds and hundreds of rounds fired. Now, double warrants shows that Jared was most likely killed by friendly fire. You know, you can watch the documentary. You make the decision for yourself. And so, another cop was shot. I don't know how he lived, who I have ties with him too, tragically. But of all the cops, bad cop, good cop, like I said, Jared has to pass. Like I said, I never met one single person in my life that didn't like Jared. And all the kids, everybody, because he used to go into the schools, used to call him the nice cop. And most cops around here aren't nice in that day. So, D. Smith is, yep. So D. Smith becomes the prosecuting attorney going out. He's fresh, he's green as grass. You know, I know Chris Allred too. I went to college with Chris. He and I together. He's smart as hell. But D, oh, I know D since I was a kid. I went to college with him. He's smart, but he was green. And him and then Randy's the attorney, Richards. So they're so the fight's on. It blew up the whole prosecuting. The public defender's office is over now. I mean, completely. I mean, this case has implications like no other. Started the Million Mass March. And of course, later that year, Danielle Willard was killed. Now, D. Smith has passed away young. I have no clue how he died. No list of, very young. He's young, in incredible shape. Mark DeCara has passed away just recently. Surgery in his heart, you know. I mean, it's a nutty story how this is played out. Of course, Jared passed. And so, his wife, it was a marijuana plant, which his mom says right here. He was killed for something that was legal. Mathew Stewart hung himself in a jail cell. Now, a lot of people say he was hung. I asked Matt's mom right here, do you still think he was hung? She said, no. But same thing. I mean, what they did to him. So Randy used to tell me, I was in the bone marrow transplant center dying of cancer. So I come home, he's putting together my will. Looks like I'm going to die. I talked to him and he said, Kevin, there are people bringing envelopes of cash like you wouldn't believe right here in my office. They're gun believers. They're First Amendment people. The First Amendment people are going crazy. Don't tell anybody. Here's the truth out. Here's another truth out. So I think in Ogden, a jury of his peers, there's no doubt in my mind that they would have found Mathew not guilty, especially after Dub's work. And Dub would have been called as an expert witness. And he's a former sheriff. And by the way, Ted Bundy bailed out of there. The jail used to be right up there. I'm a walking, talking encyclopedia on this. If you want to interview me, you know, in the Million Mass March, which Kevin BLANCH invented at the Weber State Library with the boys from Boston, which ended up being, and then later that year, of course, Danielle Willard, which is the worst one of them all. Of course, Fukushima. I hand chiseled that by myself, one guy. I mean, one guy. Couldn't be done. 7 days a week, 12. It's Leslie Hodgson's first. He was only 21 years old, but fuck me. And so, it's an unbelievable story. You know, Mark Perry's reputation was unbelievable in this town. You know, as a prosecutor. He was a he was the youngest looking 70-year-old I've ever seen. I can't believe that he's dead. I really can't. D? I know D since I was a kid. I've talked to him, since he was a kid. I've talked to him so many times. I can't believe he's dead. And, of course, Mathew Stewart's dead. Jared's dead. There's another cop that he's not normal for life because of 2 marijuana plants his wife called on 10 years ago today. And like I said, not right, not left yet. There's just no traction. But like I will state this again. Everybody was talking in this town, including cops. What an ugly, ugly nightmare. And we're still doing them. There was one killed in Hooper last night, domestic violence. I don't know what happened right here. There was a cop shot a guy last night in domestic violence. Supposedly brandished a gun. I don't know. Matthew pulled a gun. He said. And they were unmarked. They were in dark things. It was a hee-haw hillbilly. You watch Peace Officer. He thought it was a home invasion. Iraqi war vet. His dad's a Purple Heart guy, I believe. He's a non-vet. I mean, really, pillar. His mother, she's talking about a pillar of the community, as sophisticated as it gets. Everybody knows him in this town. Everybody in this town. The old Ogden Mile right there. Children behave. Barney has passed. Wow. See my Mary Ann walking. It's a tragic story, but this is where the Million Mass March was invented. 10 years ago today is really what launched it. You know, it's Fukushima, but Mathew Stewart did no-knock warrant. You know, before there was Breonna Taylor, there was Mathew Stewart. You know, and then of course Danielle Willard. Long before Black Lives Matters. Stand tuned.